You're listening to the Reds Podcast.
This is episode number 34. We're going to talk about first impressions. When it comes to networking, it's the one thing I've seen people mess up more than anything else. They make the wrong first impression. They don't make the connection that they need to. They don't get their questions answered when they've got one, and they walk away with absolutely nothing. Laurel and I have ways to fix that, and that's what we're going to talk about on this episode of the Red Podcast.
This is the Red Podcast. Real entrepreneur development. Make more money, work less, and live a life of freedom. No BS advice that really works. Here's your hosts, David Hooper and Laurel Staples.
Well, what do you do when somebody calls you by mistake, they're dialing a wrong number, and they leave a message?
I yell a lot of profanities. No, I don't do that. I ignore it.
You know, I have a phone number that is one digit off from, I think it's a doctor's office. So I get calls all the time for medical situations.
You could give out medical advice.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to do that in a situation like this. I got a call from a woman 3 times yesterday, an older lady. She sounded like she was 80, 90 years old. Her husband, he's not breathing. He's making like a gurgling sound.
Oh.
Need to bring him in today. What do you do? Because normally I would just ignore that kind of thing. But sometimes I get these calls and you feel like the guy's just going to die.
Yeah, that's a tough call there.
At the same time, outgoing voicemail says, "Hey, it's David. Leave a message."
That's true. Yeah, my friend in college, when we were moving into the dorm, she locked her keys in her car, and she called the Papa Lock people or whatever the unlocking company is. And it was first 3 numbers and then LOCK. But instead of the O, she pressed 0. And that guy it was the wrong number, but that guy had gotten so many calls from the Papa Lock people that he just said, yeah, we're sending somebody out. Yeah, it's cool. So we waited and waited and waited. Nobody came out because it wasn't them. So that would be what it would be like to dispense medical advice.
If you've got thoughts on that, you can reach me on Twitter at David Hooper, one word. This is the Red Podcast. We are helping you to spread your message, helping you to make more money, helping you to make an impact. This is for authors, bloggers, entrepreneurs, writers, musicians, anybody with a message to spread.
Yeah, people who want to spread a message and people who want to make a big income while doing it, because there are a lot of people. Like I read something the other day that the average coach or consultant makes $20,000 a year. That's not enough to be able to have a living, have a great life of freedom, and be able to spread your message. You want to make money while doing it. You want to connect with people. You want to add value to this world. And that's what we're talking about on the Red Podcast.
If you want to get paid, keep listening. This episode is brought to you by the Audacity to Podcast. Daniel J. Lewis is the man over there. It's at theaudacitytopodcast.com. He talks about the technical aspects of podcasting, but also what to do once you've mastered that. How do you get people to listen? Check him out online, The Audacity to Podcast with Daniel J. Lewis. Cool guy. You've listened to it, Laurel.
Oh, yeah. Podcasting is so hot right now. I mean, a lot of business owners are jumping on the wagon. And we talked in episode 32 about how to stand out from the noise. And Daniel is going to help you do that. When there's so many other podcasts out there, how do you make yours stand out? How do you get fans? How do you get listeners? And how do you set it all up?
We're talking about first impressions today, how to make a good one. Earlier this week, Laurel, you and I went to an event. It was a workshop.
It was a workshop about how to start a mastermind group, which is something both of us have been in mastermind groups and are in mastermind groups, and we just wanted to see how other people were doing it.
Yeah, so we dropped in there, and there were about 15 people, 16 people maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Met a lot of them. We actually formed we'll call it a micro mastermind with a couple of other people. I was not in your group.
No, you specifically didn't want to be in my group.
No, because we were there to meet other people.
We already have our own little mastermind. We're like a little marriage mastermind. That's us.
So we formed a micro mastermind while we were there as part of an exercise. We got 2 other people. I wasn't in Laurel's group, and we met some interesting folks, Laurel.
I would say so. This was just different people, not all entrepreneurs, but the people in my group, I don't know about your group, David, but the people in my group happened to actually be entrepreneurs and be people trying to run their own business and make some money. How was your group? Did you have entrepreneurs or people working jobs?
They were people working jobs, but they did want to make money. Who doesn't want to make money?
Who doesn't want to make money? That's awesome.
So, Laurel, tell the story about meeting one of the guys in your group, and let's kind of analyze that and see if we could improve on how he could have made a better first impression.
Keep in mind that we were at this workshop. It was not any sort of networking event or anything formal, but I met this guy in my group, and he was a book editor. And kind of ironic because I am writing a book and I'm trying to find an editor. And I had just sent my book off, chapter 1, to an editor to do a test run. So I'm really shopping for an editor. I hadn't decided on anybody yet. But I met this guy and, I asked him about what he did. And he said, oh, well, I'm an editor. And I said, oh, okay. I didn't tell him anything about me yet because he hadn't asked. And I said, well, what kind of books do you edit? And he said, oh, everything. I do a little bit of everything. I'm just trying to get like 1 book a month. He was semi-retired, just trying to get a little bit extra income going in. Seemed like he liked what he was doing. And eventually it came around to me and people asked me in the group what I did. And I said, well, actually, I'm a business coach and I'm writing this book. But didn't really offer me his card, didn't try to follow up with me, didn't do anything. It was just so bizarre because he was looking for business, and that was his intention of finding a mastermind group to work with people to grow his business and get more business. And then here I am, someone shopping for an editor, and he doesn't really know how to communicate what he does to me. So I just thought that was an interesting topic to discuss.
So let's set the scenario. There are a lot of networking groups, we'll call them, a lot of special interest groups on services such as meetup.com. Maybe it's something related to a forum that you take part of or just a hobbyist group somewhere on the internet. So there are a lot of opportunities to meet people. We're going to talk about how to make a first impression, kind of using your editor as an example. Maybe talk about some of the things that he could have done to change how he approached you and to make it a better experience, because he could have walked away with that client that he was looking for. That would have been 1 month's work right there.
Exactly. And I think that's the difference is you can go in to any event, any social situation, and you can leave as you are, or you can leave with clients. And you want to be the person that leaves with leads and clients and referral partners and people who are excited about you and what you do. And they're just simple little tweaks that you have to do to achieve that. It's nothing monumental, but you see that the average person doesn't know these things.
Or you could just leave with more information, the answer to the question that you've got. So the first thing I would suggest for anybody going into one of these situations is, one, know the audience, know why they are there in general, but also get to know them in particular, personally, by listening to people. That's what you were doing with him. If he didn't know that you needed an editor, though, obviously he's not listening to you because that's been at the forefront of your mind for a long, long time.
We had 3 people in our little group, and I went in and we were supposed to introduce ourselves to each other. And so I took the lead on that. I said, okay, who are you? What do you do? What's going on? What are you looking for? What are your challenges? And I really dove in and got curious about these people and was able to listen to them. And because it's not all about me. I mean, for me to do what I do, I have to listen to other people. But the other 2 people in the group didn't take any initiative to do that. It was very interesting.
It's also important when you have an opportunity to speak that you tailor your pitch, and that can be done for the specific group. If you want a piece of information, for example, and you're going to, let's call it an SEO meetup or a marketing meetup, have a specific question or information that you're looking for regarding SEO or regarding marketing. So tailor your pitch, be specific about what you do, but also be specific about what you are looking for, so you can really plant the flag and let people know where you are and where you want to go.
So take the editor, for example, David. How would he tailor his quote unquote pitch of what he did and be specific? What would that look like?
I've done dozens and dozens of book projects, not only for myself, but for other people. I found working with editors that they specialize. I would have come in as a specialist. If he had come in and said, hey, I work with nonfiction authors, specifically business authors, your ears would have perked up. That would have been your guy. And if he had said, hey, I work with novels, usually romance novels, you would have known not to waste that guy's time. You could have gotten him where he needed to go a lot more quickly.
I think being specific in your business, I think the guy should have niched down what you're saying, David. I think he should have had a specific type of author that he works with. But since he didn't, that's what you're saying is really tailor your pitch to who you're speaking with. So he would have to figure out what I did, and he might work on romance novels and business books and everything like that. But if he figured out what I did, he could be like, oh, I have worked on many business books. It's what I specialize in. I really like doing this. Here's some examples or something like that. Or even ask me, what am I looking for in an editor? That can help as well, because as you said earlier, you might just leave with more information about what people are looking for.
And this seems so obvious, but it's very, very easy to look over when you're in the middle of it. Let's take me, for example. I'm more or less a marketing guy, but I specialize in about three things. One, I come from a music business background. I've done hundreds of music business projects. I've done dozens of book projects. I also work with entrepreneurs, which is why I'm here on Red Podcast. If I'm going to an entrepreneur meetup or an entrepreneur event, I'm not necessarily going to mention musicians or authors unless it relates to the entrepreneurs that I'm talking to, and vice versa. Musicians don't care about authors. Authors don't care about musicians. Neither one of them really cares about entrepreneurs. People want to know how you can specifically help them and what you've done in that industry that will benefit them.
And for instance, I also do some photography as well. I've always done photography in my life. That's just always going to be a part of my life. So for me, when I'm talking to someone who might need some photography, like a musician, I'll say, hey, I'm a photographer and this is what I specialize in. But if I'm talking to somebody who is an entrepreneur and wants to grow a business, I talk about my main business, which is Go Fire Yourself, helping people quit their job and grow their business. So even if you have separate businesses, don't list off, well, I'm a photographer and I'm a business coach and
I'm a chef.
And I'm a chef, and I walk some dogs on occasion, and I edit books. And don't do that. Nobody cares what you are. They care about what you can do for them. And I think that's a really big difference in that the guy that I was speaking with, the book editor, I said, what do you do? And he said, well, I'm a book editor, and I work on anything and everything. That's not perking up my ears. But if he said, well, what I do is I really work one-on-one with people who are writing business books and help them communicate their message so that they can make more money through their brand and really tighten up what they're trying to say, I would be like, oh my gosh, this is my guy. This is what I need to work with. So nobody cares that you are a quote book editor. They care about what you can do for them.
And that's just a general thing that you should be doing to make more money in your business. You need to specialize. If you think about doctors, I go to a chiropractor. The only thing the chiropractor does is crack my back, work on my spine. I'm not going to go to that guy for brain surgery, and I'm not going to him for dental work.
I hope not. He'd crack them all out.
Absolutely not. Yeah, you want to go to a specialist, and your clients want the same thing. Don't be somebody who does a little bit of everything, the jack of all trades, master of none. Go for mastery and stick with one specific thing.
And you're not for everybody. This book editor should not have been for everybody, in my opinion. I think he did need to specialize, and say he specialized in romance novels and he's talking to me writing a business book. That's okay. He's not for everybody, but I might know somebody who's a romance novelist, and now I have somebody who specializes in that I could send this person to. And that helps me provide value to the people that I know. So you do have to specialize in something.
Here's something that I want to add to the pot here, and I think that this guy that you were talking to could have done this in a way that might have gotten your interest. and might have made a better connection for him. And that is, it's good to offer value in these kind of situations wherever you can, but you need to ask before giving advice. So for example, let's say that he was